Canelo Alvarez and Dmitry Bivol fought in May of last year. It was a unanimous decision win for Bivol, and it was well-deserved.
Didn't expect, probably in my heart of hearts, that Dmitry Bivol would win, but knew that he was an outstanding elite fighter. And tonight he got it perfectly right, boxed the absolute perfect fight, and fully deserved the victory.
Canelo had trouble connecting with punches because of Bivol's great defense, IQ, and movement, while Dmitry was often landing his quick combinations.
Look at him go! Oh my word, Bivol!
It seemed as though Canelo had no answer for his opponent's style. If you look at the scorecards of that fight, you would think it was a close fight, but it wasn't. Bivol completely dominated the Mexican, and the absurdity of the judging that night is not being talked about enough just because the right man won the fight. Styles make fights, and in this fight, that saying couldn't be more true. We are used to seeing Canelo bully his opponents, but he couldn't do that to Dmitry. Just like he couldn't do that to Golovkin. Why? Because both Golovkin and Bivol are volume fighters with great shins, cardio, and defense. They could match Canelo's intensity and frustrate him. The only difference is that Golovkin got robbed. I've watched their first bout multiple times, and every time I was more convinced Golovkin won. He was the aggressor, leading with his powerful jab and often landing his shattering right hand. Canelo had his moments, but that fight was one of the biggest boxing robberies ever. Even their second fight was controversial.
Told you, son.
Oh,
boy, they fucking
shit.
boxing fucking stinks. He landed 50 more punches.
Yeah.
How the fuck is that a draw?
It's
Boxing
not even
stinks.
close. It's not even close.
And if the judges did their job properly and gave the first fight to Golovkin, this loss to Bivol wouldn't be that surprising. And to a lot of boxing experts, it wasn't a surprise. But to bookmakers and the rest of the world, it was. It's crazy to think that Bivol was a plus 400 underdog. The media made this image of Canelo as this unbeatable monster who could beat any opponent, no matter the size.
Canelo's the best in the world. He's the #1 fighter in the world right now. And I would be very, very careful if I was anybody to get in front of Canelo Alvarez.
Don't get me wrong, I love Canelo. He showed multiple times that he's a legacy fighter, challenging himself over and over again against tough competition. He's definitely one of the greatest boxers of this era, and he's one of the few fighters that are making boxing great, but he's not unbeatable. After beating Golovkin for the second time in a fight that never should have happened, he is set to fight John Ryder on May 6 in Mexico.
I sold my missus a dream 15 odd years ago that I would be world champion and I'd be this and I'd be that, and I think 16 years later now we're getting there, and her investment might have paid off. This was always the dream, yeah. I think this is always the goal.
Ryder is not a bad boxer, as he showed in the fight against Callum Smith, in which he was arguably robbed, but he stands no chance against Canelo. The question is, what's next for the Mexican? I don't think he should fight Bivol again. I just don't see Canelo winning that match, but it will happen because it's in the contract. However, most of the boxing world would rather see Bivol fight Arthur Beterbiev, but because of the timing and the money involved, that fight is unlikely to happen. There's also been talk about Canelo fighting David Benavidez, who just beat Caleb Plant, and that is a more winnable fight for Alvarez. Even though David could present some dangers similar to Bivol, he's not as good of a boxer as Dmitry. He doesn't use his lankiness as well as he could. He likes to fight in close, which would work perfectly for Canelo. He's defensively liable, and we don't know if he can endure Canelo's punches. However, a lot of people are seeing David as the favorite in that fight, but I would still give Canelo the advantage. Bivol showed David what he needs to do to challenge the Mexican, but it wouldn't be the first time Canelo picks apart a far larger opponent. For the sake of boxing, I would rather watch Canelo fight David and Bivol fight Arthur. And while that is still a possibility, a second fight between Alvarez and Bivol is going to happen, probably in 2024. Even though I said that he would lose again, I'm not writing him off completely. There's still a chance he could do something extraordinary and shock the world. It's a small chance, but it's there. Fighting with more volume would be one of the keys to a closer fight, but fighting at 175 pounds doesn't work in his favor, and his gas tank will probably fail him at one point of the fight. He should also stop blasting the arm punches, as it clearly had no effect on Bivol. His arm was red, but it surely didn't stop him from constantly landing his jab. Replace those shots with body punches and try to grind out a decision win. But even with all that, I don't see him getting the win. I know Canelo wants to avenge that loss. He's a born winner, and he will give everything in his power to beat Bivol. But honestly, for the sake of his career, he should scratch that idea out of his head. Bivol has the right tools to beat him every single time they fight.